In this video, I'm going to be making Snowmelt Cheesecake from Hokkaido, which is a Japanese cookbook that specializes in recipes from the region of Hokkaido in the far north. This is not your average cheesecake that's just, cheesecake with whatever flavor in it or, a special crust. This cheesecake has two crusts and a jelly layer and a cheesecake layer and a whipped cream layer. You can see in the picture here, it's like stratified. It almost looks like a geological strata, right? It's a very strong cheese flavor. It's got some unique ingredients that you don't commonly see in cheesecake, but even though this is a Western dish, right? Cheesecake is a Western dish. That's kind of what Japanese cuisine is to some extent. Over in Japan, they like to adapt Western recipes to the Japanese palate, just like Americans do with cuisines from other countries. And this recipe is kind of emblematic of that. So follow along. If you enjoy Japanese cuisine, you're going to like this.
The first thing we're going to do is make our sweet short crust. And so we're going to put 120 grams of all-purpose flour, as well as 50 grams of confectioner's sugar in a bowl. And to that, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of salted butter at room temperature. And now we're just going to mix this together with our hands until we get a nice grainy texture, almost like coarse sand. If you've seen any of my other sort of pie or tart videos, this technique is quite familiar to you. Next up, we're going to add 1 room temperature egg. And we're just going to mix all of this together until a nice solid, it'll be a little crumbly, but overall solid dough forms. Once you get a solid ball of dough, you can go ahead and just put that in a piece of paper or some plastic wrap. And we're just going to wrap that up and make sure we refrigerate it to get a nice solid mass for about an hour and up to 2 hours. We're also going to make a graham cracker pecan crust layer. So we're going to take 45 grams of graham crackers, as well as 60 grams of pecans, a dash of cinnamon, and 3 tablespoons, again, of salted butter. And we're just going to go ahead and grind that up in a food processor until everything is combined. I've got the short crust pastry that's been cooled here on a lightly floured surface, and now we're going to roll this out into a 17-inch by 3-inch rectangle. I know that seems quite long, but the reasoning will be apparent here in just a moment. I've rolled out the short crust pastry to a long 18-inch by 3-inch rectangle. And the reason for that is because this is a double crust cheesecake, and we're going to actually just cut that approximately down the middle. And the size of these cheesecakes are a little odd. They're going to be in a 6-inch by 2-inch cheesecake or tart pan. And I know this is kind of an odd size, but this is what the recipe says. It makes 2 of these, which is why we just sliced that in half. And what we're actually going to do is take this short crust pastry, and we're going to line the sides of this pan with it. Now that we've got our first crust in, we're going to take half of our graham cracker pecan crust dough, and we're going to put that in the bottom here and just pat that flat. So pretty unique for a cheesecake, right? Doing it both a pastry as well as a graham cracker crust. Once you've got both crusts fitted into your 2 little cheesecakes, we're going to go ahead and preheat the oven to 400 degrees, and we're going to blind bake these for 15 minutes. Our pre-baked pie crusts have just come out of the oven, and now we're going to let them sit here and cool back to room temperature before we do anything else with them. The next thing we're going to do is with our cooled pastry shells, we're going to add a layer of strawberry jam and just spread that evenly along the bottom of each shell. And there we go, just finishing up. The recipe actually says you can use any tart jam that you'd like to use. I'm using strawberry because it's the most popular jam in Japan. So it's the flavor most commonly associated with desserts like this. If you go see Japan during Christmas time, they actually have a strawberry Christmas cake that's really good that most grocery stores carry. So definitely check that out if you're out there. In a small bowl, we've got 4 egg yolks, and we're going to put in 95 grams of golden sugar, as well as 3/4 of a teaspoon of cornstarch, and about 1/8 of a teaspoon of almond extract, so just a few drops basically. Yeah, that's probably a little too much, but it's extract. Extracts are all right. And a few drops of lemon juice as well. Now we're just going to whisk this together until we get a nice smooth mixture. At the stove in a small pot, we're going to take 2.5 tablespoons of milk as well as 2.5 tablespoons of heavy cream, or 5 tablespoons of half and half, and bring these to a low boil. And to that, we're also going to add 1/2 ounce of margarine. And I know this is going to be really weird, but just trust me on this. Well, I didn't write the recipe. Trust the recipe and the cookbook author. But a slice of American cheese, and we're going to melt all this together until we get a nice smooth mixture. Once your mixture is bubbling like this, we're going to immediately take it off of the heat and put in a packet of gelatin powder. Just get that whisked in as you go. Now we're going to very slowly whisk in our hot ingredients with our cornstarch egg mixture from earlier. So just trying to get a little stream going there. The last thing we're going to add to our cheesecake filling is 1.5 blocks of cream cheese. Just room temperature, but kind of break it off there into little chunks to make it easier to whisk in and get incorporated into the rest of your mixture. Back at our crusts, we've got a nice smooth cheesecake filling here, and we're going to take about half of that filling and just fill each crust with it. With the cheesecakes filled, we're now going to put these back into our 400-degree oven for another 25 minutes. Just pop these out of the oven, and they set really well. Now we're going to let these cool all the way back to room temperature before we do the final steps. And then at that point, we're going to put them in the refrigerator and let them chill and get cold. The last layer we need to make is just a small batch of whipped cream. So I've got 2 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar, and we're just going to put that in the stand mixer. And then we're going to put 5 ounces of heavy cream. And a little splash of vanilla. And now we're just going to whip this on high until we get a nice thick, smooth whipped cream. The cheesecakes have cooled down to room temperature, and now we're just going to take our nice fluffy whipped cream and put a layer of that across both cheesecakes. I've got the whipped cream distributed, and now we're going to do what gives this cheesecake its name, Snowmelt Cheesecake, and we're going to sort of gently thwack the back of our spoon onto the whipped cream. And what that's going to do is it's going to make these small little peaks. If you've watched a lot of my videos, you know I spent some time in Antarctica, and we would call these sastrugi. These tiny little things. I tripped over many of them, unfortunately. It is not the funnest thing in the world. So just do that across both of them, and then we're going to go ahead and put these in the refrigerator for at least a few hours to get this completely cooled down. The cheesecakes are nice and cold, so now I'm going to go ahead and unmold them. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, look at that beautiful crust. That's just perfect. All right, let's go ahead and get these done, and we're going to cut in a slice here and show you guys what it looks like on the inside. Here we go. Let's see how this came out. So far, so good. Look at that, guys. Look at that layering. You can see that wonderful strawberry jam layer on the bottom. You can see the combination of the two different crusts, and just that's perfect stratification. Almost looks like a geological layer, right?
And there we go. That is our Hokkaido Snowmelt Cheesecake. If you enjoy Japanese cuisine, especially the sort of genre of Japanese American food where they're imitating our food as opposed to the other way around, then this is a cookbook that you're really going to want to check out. Besides a lot of very authentic Japanese food, it also has more recipes like this, which is adopting Western cuisine to a Japanese palate. This cheesecake is really good. I think you'll really enjoy it. I'll see you guys next time.